All right, welcome back to the channel. Second time of asking because my mic decided to unplug at some point during the first time of recording this. So I'm going to breeze through the start as much as I can because I've already done this whole part as a kind of stream of consciousness thing. Now I've got to recap everything that I said. Welcome back to the One Report. This is the second episode. First episode came out last Monday. You can go check that out. Thank you for the support on that video. I know, leave a like, comment, all that stuff. Believe me, I watch a lot of YouTube content. I get it. You don't need to hear it, but it really does help. And also, if you guys want to drop comments on these videos about the talking points that we get to, future talking points, all that kind of stuff, I will get to it in the next video, maybe at the start. Maybe there's a world in which we do this live at some point. I don't know how that works because I'm recording these on Monday morning. I've got my iced coffee here. We're recapping the previous week's news before the next week gets underway. So I don't know how that would work, but maybe there's a world in which we can do that. Obviously, last episode was an incredibly busy one. There was loads of talking points, but we've got a fair few to get to today, some fun ones as well. So I'm excited to dive into that. It's been a busy week for myself before we dive into the one news. I've been doing a lot of interviews over at Violent Money TV. That is the YouTube channel where I put out all of my MMA interviews. We, of course, did put up an MMA video on this channel about Cage Warriors lightweight champion George Hardwick. Of course, I enjoy covering kickboxing and Muay Thai. It was never something that was my intention, but I enjoy doing it. So I always, it's not something I'm going to stop doing, but MMA is very much the thing that I am most invested in. And so, yeah, I'm going to start doing some different MMA stuff here and there. We'll have an MMA video up on this channel maybe the day after this video, maybe the day after that. So Tuesday or Wednesday, at least for me in the UK. My hair is a bit of a mess. Like I said, we're doing this Monday morning. We're doing it off the cuff, apart from this intro, which I already recorded. Thank you very much to my microphone for unplugging itself. Although thank you to StreamYard for letting me know that it was unplugged. Otherwise, I would have recorded this whole episode and had to do it again. I don't know what else there is to get into. I hope that you guys had a good time watching UFC 306 this past weekend. I certainly did. Yeah, I think that's about it. I think this intro took me about 5 or 6 minutes the first time around, but hey, we'll give you the Cliff Notes version this time around, I suppose. So, as always with this series, treat it like a podcast. If you want to go get yourself a drink, if you want to go do some work at the same time, we're just going to be here. I'll try and stick to the talking points as much as I can, but there will be a little bit of rambling here and there. I mean, I feel like if you've watched my channel before, then you know that is part of the, it's kind of part of the vibe of this channel. I sit in front of this camera and this microphone here and I do a bit of rambling. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, let's kick things off with some pretty fun news because at long last, Panpayak is back. The Panpayak klaxon has been sounded. I'm sure all of you will know this, but you literally can't do one championship related things without being asked about where is Panpayak. If you've ever tuned into the One on SK podcast that I sometimes feature on with Nick Atkin, there will be a live chat comment during that podcast. It's only an hour podcast usually, but every single hour pretty much you will get a comment, usually to Nick, asking him is there any update, and he will usually reply that he knows about as much as you guys do regarding the status of Panpayak. But he is back. One Friday Fights 83, Friday October 18th at Lumpini Stadium. Of course, hasn't fought since the start of December of 2022. 164. Joshua Pasio versus Jared Brooks for the strawweight title on that card. The interesting thing, I think, with Panpayak, for maybe fans that haven't seen him fight, because it has been, nearly 2 years now, is he's got a 4-2 record in one championship, which doesn't do him justice at all, because those two losses are both to Superleg, one of them being a split decision. That was the last time we saw him. So, I mean, yeah, that speaks for itself, right? This guy is, ask anybody who knows their stuff about striking, and this guy is one of the best of his era. And it's just good to have him back. I know that, we could sit here and vent about the frustrations of not seeing him. Right, this guy's one of the best in the world, and he's been sat out for 2 years. Of course, those 2 years could have been incredibly impactful on his career. We will see how well he's able to pick that straight back up here. But I'm just happy to see that he is back. Happy to call an end to this saga of where is he, at least for now. And we've got him back. I suppose if we really want to be critical, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in just a second, in terms of whether this changes the impact of this fight announcement. He's going to be returning against Romanian Silviu Vitez. I could have butchered that pronunciation, so I do apologize. You kind of have to expect that with these videos. It's going to happen. Who doesn't have the most impressive record in one championship. He's competed 5 times on Friday fights, won 1 of those fights. He lost his first 2, won a fight, a unanimous decision against River Daz, and then 2 more losses since then. Admittedly, you know, some of those names that he has lost to, Konklai, Sexan, Yoglek Pet, the only, I suppose, kind of alarming one is the last fight that he had on May 17th. He lost to Japan's Kimura Ayumu. Could be butchering that as well. Apologies. I don't know too much about Amuyu. The Friday fights cards are kind of difficult for me to stay up to date with because they happen at lunchtime in the UK. And whilst I'm not complaining about getting some fights at lunchtime, I work during the day. And so I can't watch fights and work at the same time. It's too difficult for me. Maybe I should learn to do that, but it's not something that I have. I simply do not have the brain power to concentrate on what I am doing and watch fights at the same time. So, yeah, not too familiar with him. So, give me your guys' thoughts on Vitez, I suppose, from the fights that he has been in. I feel like I'm going to sneeze, and I'm not going to edit it out. So, all right, little sip. That's how we're doing these things, unedited. Stream of consciousness. Yeah, I suppose if we really want to be critical about it, we could be like, why is he coming back against a guy who has lost his last 2 fights? Personally, I haven't seen too much of that. I'm sure there are people out there that are disappointed that he's not coming back, you know, against some kind of top contender or something like that. I think we just have to be, I think most people are just happy that Panpayak is back. I kind of had that reaction as well, where it was like, oh, he's against this guy. Okay, Panpayak's back, right? That's the story here, not necessarily the fight itself. And I'm okay with that considering how long it's been. It's just good to see him back in there. But I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure that there are people that are disappointed in that. If you're going to have him come back, why not have him come back with a bang? Have him come back in a big fight. I'm sure this will be, you'd imagine this will be the main event of this show, at least. But yeah, it could be a better opponent, I think. But we'll see what happens from here, right? You know, if he beats Vitez and then the next fight is against a guy who also maybe doesn't have the best record on Friday fights, then I think there's reason to be a little bit more annoyed and frustrated. But I think for the time being, get him back in there, and then we'll talk about where he should be fighting, the level he should be fighting at, because like I said, he's got 2 losses to Superlek, but he should be up there, you know, right at the top of the flyweight division. Of course, this fight is happening in the flyweight division, flyweight Muay Thai. I mean, yeah, it's just good to see him back, and we've got some other fight announcements that we'll get to. I suppose we should get to that now. Actually, it's probably the next biggest news that we have had. Let me pull this up. The first, actually, we'll before we pull this article up, we'll flip this back for a second. Yeah, so we've got some one actual fight announcement and then a couple of like fight teases, I suppose you could say. One of them being Roberto Soldic. He posted a photo on social media. I believe it was Soldic himself. It might have been his management or something like that. Of him signing a contract. He kind of teased, I think, that he had fight news coming soon. That feels like a couple of months ago at this point, but it's probably just a couple of weeks. And yeah, it looks like we're getting closer to seeing Soldic back. Potentially Atlanta, I think, would make a lot of sense to put him in front of a US audience on the biggest stage possible. Potentially, maybe a Qatar card sometime. I don't know when that would be. I guess it would have to be early next year. January, February, something like that. Maybe March again. Obviously, we had the Qatar card in March this year. So maybe that's an option. It'll be interesting to see where he ends up, which card, and what kind of opponent, because the welterweight division has not been that active, and Soldic's kind of run so far in one championship has not been ideal. Obviously, he had that fight against Murad Ramazanov that ended in the first round. And then he got stopped by Kalistam at One Fight Night 10 last year, which was last May, which is crazy. Again, I think the bigger story here is that Soldic is back. I don't necessarily need to see him in a number one contenders fight, right? This one championship run has not worked out fantastic for him so far. So I would just like to see him in there against someone in the division. And I just want to see Soldic fight. I'm a huge Roberto Soldic fan. He's a great fighter, and I am puzzled. I'm sure like he is, and I'm sure like all of his fans are, as to why this one championship run hasn't worked out for him so far in terms of the results, at least. Because I think when he signed to one championship, that's a guy that, I mean, the UFC were pretty high on Soldic, and they were, admittedly maybe not offering him the best money, but it seemed like they were going to offer him a pretty quick kind of introduction into the promotion, start him off quite high up in the rankings kind of thing. So this is a guy that is rated very, very highly. So I just want to see him fight in one championship, because I do think it can click for him eventually. And yeah, excited to see what that is. And the other news we had was Marcus Buchecha Almeida is back. He is going to be fighting Amir Aliakbari in Atlanta on November 8th at the State Farm Arena. Buchecha was one of the people that is kind of caught up in this karate combat versus one thing at the moment. We talked about that a fair bit on the last episode of this show. I would say there hasn't really been, I don't think, a significant development on that in order to talk about it again. I mean, you can go check out my thoughts on it in the previous video if you want. I would also say that if you are interested in finding out a little bit more about that, obviously Karate Combat's president Azim has been doing a lot of interviews with some prominent figures in the MMA landscape. I would say if you're going to check one out, you want to find out a little bit more about it, go check out Luke Thomas' interview with President Azim from Karate Combat. I think, yeah, I checked that out for myself and thought it was very, very good. So check that out. But Buchecha, I think he posted something on social media about not being offered fights and wanting to fight. And I believe he like tagged one championship, and he basically said, to his supporters and his fans, I'm the wrong person to ask as to why I'm not fighting. You should be asking one championship. And then we have fight news. Now, don't get me wrong. Is this motivated by the fact that he spoke out and one championship not wanting to give, people like Karate Combat more ammunition, things like that? Yeah, I'm sure it is. Would Buchecha have been on this Atlanta card whether or not he had spoken out, and whether Karate Combat had then kind of made a big deal out of that as well? Maybe. I think that if you're going to put Buchecha back somewhat soon, that makes a lot of sense. You have a heavyweight title fight in the main event, so at least you've got another heavyweight fight there, potentially as a backup. Say Rugru gets injured or something like that, you've got another heavyweight fight scheduled for that card. Potentially Amir Aliakbari or Buchecha could step in. But nearly knocked over my drink there. Like I said, stream of consciousness. This is what you get. No edits. Not that I do a ton of editing on these videos anyway. I like to keep it that way. But yeah, it's a good fight. It makes a lot of sense for both guys. We'll check out the report. I believe it was announced on MMA Fighting, so I'll just pull that up, see if there was anything else that we need to grab from that announcement. My screen, actually, we'll leave it like that so that my camera isn't consumed by the white backdrop of MMA Fighting. Marcus Buchecha urged one championship to give him a fight, and it didn't take long for the company to oblige. The Jiu-Jitsu legend will face knockout artist Amir Aliakbari at 1169 on November 8th in Atlanta. Multiple people with knowledge of the situation confirmed the news to MMA Fighting. Buchecha suffered his first professional loss in a thrilling match against Rugrug. Yep, that was a very fun fight indeed. He went on social media this past week to voice his discontent. And Amir Aliakbari defeated Arjan Bulla in bizarre fashion back in March. And bizarre fashion, I would say, is putting it lightly. That was a very, very strange fight indeed. Not necessarily on Amir Aliakbari's point, but definitely on Arjan Bulla's point of view. That was a very, very bizarre fight indeed. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I think I honestly thought that Aliakbari was going to get a title shot. Maybe the fact that the fight with Arjan Bulla was so bizarre and a tough watch. Maybe that's why they went with Rugrug instead. I think they probably would have. It makes sense to go with Rugrug. He has kind of a, how do I put it in a way that doesn't sound offensive, because it isn't offensive, but he has a certain aura about him where people stop and take notice, right? You don't see many human beings that walk around the planet that look like Rugrug. And so he has that kind of head turner appeal that I think makes a lot of sense for him to be the main event at 1169 with Malakin, who I think you could probably say the same for. At least, like the image of him holding 3 belts and stuff. MMA fans are going to see that and go, whoa, who is this guy? He's undefeated. And he's a fun character as well, Malakin. I think that makes a lot of sense for him to be in that spot. So yeah, we've got Buchecha back. And yeah, good fight. Again, whether you want to say this was motivated by that, I'm sure it was to some degree. But either way, we have Buchecha back as a result of it, which is the best positive outcome, right? If you reacting to that news and stuff like that last week, the best possible outcome for everything is that these fighters are given fights and can stay active, and Buchecha has got a fight. And it's a fight that makes a lot of sense as well against Amir Aliakbari. So I have no complaints about that one. What else is there to get to? I suppose we should have got to this after Panpayak, but there's a little bit of Friday Fights news. We found out that the Friday Fights tentpole cards, that is the ones that you get every quarter that are on pay-per-view, are not going to be hosted at Lumpini Stadium next year. They're going to be at the Impact Arena, which is a big step, I think, for one. Not only in terms of keeping the events a little bit more diverse, making them feel a bit more significant, a bit more important, because Lumpini has been the home of one primarily for the last few years, but also to put Friday Fights cards on in the Impact Arena. I think that that's a really positive thing in terms of not putting their money where their mouth is, but you're suddenly going from Lumpini, which they could, you put a couple of big fights on there, they're going to fill that out fairly comfortably. Now there is a bit more of an emphasis on selling tickets for these shows because of the bigger venue. And I like that. I think that that's a good step for one to be making. We did have the full kind of card lineup for the upcoming Friday Fights tentpole card. That is one Lumpini or one Friday Fights 81 on Friday, September 27th. Let me pull that up. Where are we? There you go. Can I go? That corner kind of blocking it. That corner kind of blocking it. I'm blocking a couple of faces there. I'm blocking out Elias Sanahachi, aren't I? Yeah, I should probably not do that. That doesn't feel very fair on him, does it? Yeah, there we go. So there you go. We have the full card announcement here. I suppose the biggest talking point immediately was why are Takeru and Hiroki Ekamoto about 3 and 4, but it is so that it caters for the Japanese time zone. That makes a lot of sense, I think. It is quite shocking when you first see it. To see those guys so low down on the card, I certainly saw it and was like, whoa, and then clicked, oh, okay, the fact that Takeru and Hiroki are next to each other. Which it is still going to be weird, tuning into this card and 3 fights in, you get Hiroki Ekamoto versus Elias Sanahachi, and then you get Takeru in the next fight before the rest of the card happens. But this card looks fantastic. I think this might be This is up there with the best Friday Fights cards they've put together. I would have to compare it to the other tentpole ones, but off the top of my head, I think it stands up, even without a title fight. Even if I am still a little bit puzzled about the idea to put that main event together, but we did already do a video about that, so yeah, enough said. But yeah, strong card. And the other thing to get to regarding Friday Fights, I think the reason that the announcement came out about these shows being at the Impact Arena was because of a story surrounding Russell Crowe, of all people. I didn't expect to be speaking about Russell Crowe on the second episode of this series. Where's the consensus at for mixed martial arts fans on Russell Crowe? Fans, not fans? I mean, Gladiator, iconic. He's great in that. I don't know if you guys have seen The Nice Guys with him and Ryan Gosling. If you haven't, you absolutely should. That is a phenomenal movie. From I was going to say a few years back, but it must be like nearly 10 at this point. My guess would be 2016. Should we fact check that? Let's fact check that. 2016. Look at that. I know my stuff. There you go. The Nice Guys, starring Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe. There's your homework for this week, folks. Go and watch The Nice Guys. It's a phenomenal movie. Anyway, Russell Crowe. So this story dropped from Variety. I'm just going to pull this on screen straight away because I don't even know where to start with this. So we're just going to follow their wording. Russell Crowe is going to star in a movie called The Beast in Me. Here it is. If I put myself in the other corner, are we covering it? Now we're all good. So yeah, One Championship martial arts franchise boards Russell Crowe sports film, The Beast in Me. There is a lot to unpack right there, right? First of all, Russell Crowe sports film. Has he done a sports film before? It's just, bizarre a little bit anyway. But then you add the One Championship stuff. So this article, you can go check this out for yourself, written by Patrick Frater. Mixed martial arts franchise One Championship has come on board The Beast in Me, a sports action film starring Russell Crowe and Daniel McPherson, or McPherson. I think it's Fearson, but I could be wrong. Land of Bad and Foundation. I'm not familiar with him, but either way. In the film, McPherson plays an out-of-work former MMA fighter who suffers a personal tragedy involving his brother. With the help of a veteran trainer played by Crowe, he sets out to avenge his brother by coming out of retirement to compete in One Championship. The film is produced by the US-based Broken Open Pictures and is set to be directed by Tyler Atkins, writer-director of Ocean Boy. I'm not familiar with that. Maybe I'll check it out before this movie comes out. International rights to the film are represented by the Los Angeles-based Solution Entertainment Group. So the first thing to note here is Russell Crowe is not going to be playing a One Championship fighter. He is going to be playing, that veteran kind of, maybe I'm going to guess, kind of jaded coach. Think of literally any combat sports movie and you know what this role is going to be, right? I'm trying to think of examples. The only one I can think of is, I think Forrest Whitaker plays that role in Southpaw, starring Jake Gyllenhaal, which is a movie I really like. It's not that great, but Jake Gyllenhaal's very good in it. You can think of I'm sure you're probably sat there on the other side of your screen going, how have you forgotten about this example? What about this example? It's like the most popular trope in martial arts or boxing movies. Production is set to begin later this year and extend into early 2025. Among the locations will be Bangkok, Thailand's Impact Arena, where One's Friday Fights live event on January 24th will be the setting for a key scene. Additional footage for the movie is expected to be gathered throughout One's fight week. So there you go, right? So we learn, and it specifically says Friday Fights, not any other card. So there, straight off the bat, we know there's going to be a Friday Fights card at the Impact Arena on January 24th. And you're like, okay, well, maybe they're going to do this card at the Impact Arena so that the film can use the Impact Arena as a backdrop. But no, we have had it confirmed since. I don't know if Nick was the one that broke the news, but it might have been Nick. That, we're going to get Friday Fights tentpole cards at the Impact Arena. One, which will take a production partner consultant credit, confirmed that Crowe will be in Bangkok for the scene too. So too will the company's chairman and larger-than-life CEO Chatri Sityodtong, albeit portraying an executive rather than reverting to his former role as a grappler. Yeah, how wild would that be if it was like Chatri's going to be a martial artist in the movie? Crowe co-wrote the script with David Frigero, who will produce alongside Tim O'Hare and John Schwartz. Yeah. With access to one's vast network of athletes and events, we are poised to deliver an exhilarating cinematic experience that reflects the true heart of martial arts. His Chattery statement on it: I am thrilled to be partnering with the star-studded cast and production team behind The Beast in Me. I'm confident one is the best platform to help tell their story of grit, perseverance, and determination. We cannot wait to host their entire team in Bangkok at a One Friday Fights Week in January. And then there's a little bit about One Championship, a little bit about Russell Crowe and Bangkok. Wait, sorry. I'm reading this last paragraph and I had to pause for a minute. Crowe visited Thailand for the first time in late 2021. Blah, 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 blah. Freshly out of lockdown, Australia gratefully took an unofficial role as tourism promotion officer. While in Bangkok, he made a splash interviewing candidates for the job of city mayor, meeting with the Minister of Culture, visiting a Michelin-starred street kitchen, and making copious social media postings. I'll be honest. The first time I read this story when it first broke, what day was it on? Does it not have a date? Oh, September 11th. So yeah, a good few days ago now. I didn't read that part. I didn't know that Russell Crowe had a history with promoting Bangkok. I don't know. That's bizarre. But hey, so we're getting a movie that's going to have one championship in it, which is going to be interesting to see, and to have Russell Crowe in it is a pretty big get. But even if he is just going to play that kind of archetype trainer role, I don't think we're going to get some crazy performance from him here or something. But I mean, he co-wrote the movie as well, so that's a good feather to have in the cap, not only of this movie but also One Championship, right? To have Russell Crowe, who is a very well-known name, involved in that way. So yeah, exciting to see what happens with that. Are you guys excited to watch the movie? You have high hopes for it? Is there any One Championship athletes that you think they should put in the movie? I think it would be cool to like have a little Rod Tang cameo or something like that. I'd be surprised if we don't get something like that, right? Like a Rod Tang cameo or maybe a Stamp Fairtex cameo, something like that. Who knows? I'm excited to see it. Purely out of just, I don't know. What's the word that I'm thinking of? Curiosity. Just curiosity of what this movie is going to look like, and yeah, what we can make of this. But yeah, I think that's about it for all the One Championship news this week. So that will be the end of the One Report. Thank you for checking out this episode. As I said at the start, leave your comments on these talking points down below, and I will get to them at the start of the next episode. We can start doing that, and like I said, maybe there's a world in which we start doing these live on a Monday morning, or maybe Monday afternoon, Monday evening. Maybe we could do that instead, but we'll get to that when we get to it. Cross that bridge when we arrive at said bridge. That is not the saying, but it's a Monday morning. Give me some slack. Thank you for checking out this video. Leave a like, all that good stuff, and I will see you all very soon. Until then, have a good rest of your week. Peace.